put those hollow point bullets in there, and you could do a lot of damage and killing with that gun. And that's exactly what you did. An 80-year-old man that you already hit with a .40 caliber round, you hunted him down in cold blood. The court is going to impose the most significant sentence allowed under Michigan law: life without the possibility of parole.
They're all dead. That's what he told the 911 dispatcher, his voice trembling, heavy with panic. For people all gunned down inside their quiet Ohio apartment.
Why? Does it look like they've been shot? You said they're bleeding from the head? Okay, are any of them breathing? Okay. Can you go check to see if they're breathing? You say you killed them?
No, what are you talking about?
Sir, did you do something to them?
I just got home.
A mother, a father-in-law, a beloved aunt, and his own wife, gone. When police arrived, the scene was pure horror. Blood pooled around the bodies, each shot with brutal precision. Not a single witness left alive. The killer? According to him, it must have happened while he stepped out. But here's the part that still shocks investigators to this day. He wasn't just a relative. He was family, a husband, a son-in-law, a man whose entire life was built around the very people now lying dead inside that home. So what could push a man to wipe out his entire household? Was it greed? Was it rage? Or was it something he'd been hiding for years? Something that, once exposed, could destroy the picture-perfect image he spent so long trying to protect? Welcome to Psycho Crimes, the channel that exposes the darkest corners of the human mind. Here, we break down real cases of cold-blooded murder, shocking confessions, and jaw-dropping courtroom twists. If you're into deep analysis, gripping narratives, and crimes that leave more questions than answers, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming. Back to Gurpreet Singh, a hard-working immigrant, respected within his community, a father of 3. To outsiders, he was the embodiment of success. But inside his own home, tension had been mounting for years. Financial pressure, family disputes, and a double life he thought he could keep hidden forever. On April 28, 2019, it all came crashing down. And as you're about to see, when it did, the outcome wasn't just tragic. It was terrifying.
What happened to him? It looks like somebody killed him. Why? I don't know. That's why I need your help.
The morning of April 28, 2019, was nothing out of the ordinary, at least on the surface. Inside the lakefront at West Chester apartment complex in Ohio, Gurpreet Singh, his wife, and her family shared a life that seemed, to neighbors and colleagues, steady and typical. Gurpreet had spent the night before attending religious services at the Gurudwara Sahib temple. By all accounts, he was active in the community, warm, friendly, and always willing to lend a hand. He worked in manufacturing, a consistent income, and had 3 children he shared with his wife, though they were staying elsewhere at the time. To those who knew him, he was the kind of man you'd never suspect of anything violent. But cracks had already formed beneath the surface. His marriage to Shalinderjit Kaur wasn't built on trust. Over the years, tension had quietly settled into their home, fed by secrets Gurpreet tried desperately to keep buried. Behind the public smiles and religious devotion was a man living 2 lives. Gurpreet was seeing another woman, one with whom he'd built a full-blown relationship, a mistress who believed she was his future. Shalinderjit had known, or at least suspected, for some time. And recently, she'd had enough. family arguments were no longer behind closed doors. She had started threatening to expose him, not just to his community, but to their children and extended family. The shame that would come with that in a deeply conservative culture was more than just embarrassing, it was destructive. Her father, mother, and aunt had moved in not long ago. Whether it was to help with the household or keep a closer eye on things, no one really knows. But what is clear is this: their presence only escalated the pressure building on Gurpreet. He was no longer just answering to a wife. He now had a full audience. And that audience wasn't staying silent. That morning, as the family carried out daily routines, nothing seemed off. The family had breakfast. Gurpreet even helped with a few chores around the house. He left home just before noon, saying he had some errands to run. No one imagined it would be the last time they'd see him before everything changed. But Singh wasn't running errands. He had a gun in his car. One he'd purchased under his name, a .380 caliber pistol. Legally bought, quietly kept. And that afternoon, sometime between 1 and 2 p.m., Gurpreet Singh returned home through the garage. The next sequence of events can only be pieced together from forensics. Singh went room by room, shooting each of his in-laws and his wife. For victims. For shots. All to the head. Each bullet fired from the same weapon. Cold. Direct. There were no defensive wounds. No signs of a struggle. Which means they likely never saw it coming. And then he left, locking up the home behind him like it was just another Sunday afternoon. He drove to a friend's house, spoke casually, and later placed a call to 911. That call would change everything.
Why?
I don't know.
Does it look like they've been shot? You said they're bleeding from the head?
No.
Okay, are any of them breathing?
I don't know.
Okay. Can you go check to see if they're breathing?
No. I didn't.
You said you killed them?
No, what are you talking about?
Sir, did you do something to them?
I just got home.
I just got home, he told the operator, his voice shaking. My wife and family, they're all dead. But the police weren't buying the performance for long. There were no signs of forced entry. No valuables taken. No indication of a break-in. And for someone who had supposedly just returned home, Singh's account of the timeline was already starting to raise eyebrows. What started as a family tragedy was now looking like something far more personal. Not random. Not opportunistic. Deliberate. And soon, detectives would start digging into the Singh household. And what they found beneath the surface was darker than anyone expected. When officers arrived at the lakefront apartment that evening, what they encountered was nothing short of execution. The four bodies, Shalinderjit Kaur, her mother Parmjit, her father Lakhwinder, and her aunt Nirmaljit, were discovered inside, each with a single bullet wound to the head. The scenes were clinical. No struggle. No chaos. No signs of forced entry. Gurpreet Singh stood outside, visibly distressed, telling officers that he had just returned from visiting a friend. That he found his family like this. That someone must have broken in while he was gone. It was a story that, on the surface, seemed plausible. But detectives weren't just looking at tears. They were looking at timing, details, inconsistencies. And almost immediately, things weren't adding up. Gurpreet claimed he'd walked into the home and found the bodies. But there were no signs that anyone had forced their way inside. The door was locked. The garage closed. No windows were broken. Nothing was stolen. And then there was the gun. During the initial sweep, police noticed that there was no firearm present at the scene. But when they began checking firearm registrations, they discovered something critical. Gurpreet had recently purchased a .380 caliber pistol. The same caliber used in the murders. It wasn't at the house. It wasn't in his car. And according to Singh, he didn't know where it was. That wasn't good enough. Then came the inconsistencies in his timeline. Singh said he was gone for hours. But phone records and witness statements painted a different picture. He had left just after noon. The murders likely took place between 1 and 2 p.m. He said he was at a friend's house during that time. The friend, however, couldn't account for all of that window. Gaps started forming. Detectives began pulling footage from nearby traffic lights, businesses, and apartment complexes. And in several clips, Singh's car was seen circling the block, lingering, taking routes that didn't line up with where he claimed to be. And then came a more personal crack in the story. The woman Singh had been seeing, his mistress, came forward. She had no idea Singh was still living with his wife.
So the defendant asked you if he had been single, would you consider married?
Yes, and I said if my parents agreed, then I would.
He had told her he was in the process of separating, that he was staying with a friend. She believed they were planning a life together. She had no idea he was married with 3 children. Her testimony gave the case motive. When detectives confronted Singh with what they'd found, his weapon purchase, the inconsistencies, the affair, he didn't confess. But he didn't offer much in the way of defense either. His story didn't change. But it didn't explain any of the facts now piling up against him. Ballistics confirmed that all 4 bullets had been fired from the same weapon. And though the murder weapon was never recovered, the casing patterns, the trajectory angles, the positioning of the bodies, all of it aligned with someone who had knowledge of the home. Someone they trusted. Someone who moved freely and without hesitation. The tipping point came when forensic analysts found traces of gunshot residue inside Singh's car and on a jacket believed to be his. Even without the weapon, that evidence was damning. And when they looked into his financial records, another troubling pattern emerged. Singh was in deep debt. Credit cards maxed out. Loans unpaid. Between the financial stress and the mounting tension at home, the puzzle was quickly assembling itself. On July 31, 2019, just 3 months after the murders, Gurpreet Singh was arrested and charged with 4 counts of aggravated murder. His bond was set at $5 million. It was a stunning fall from grace. A man once seen as a quiet, spiritual father, now charged with one of the most brutal mass killings in the region's history. But the case wasn't over yet. Singh wasn't ready to plead guilty, and the court proceedings that followed would push the victim's loved ones through years of delays, pain, and emotional torment. The trial was coming, and when it did, the courtroom would be filled with more questions than answers. From the moment Gurpreet Singh walked into court, dressed in a dark suit, emotionless and composed, the atmosphere shifted. This wasn't a man shackled and broken. This was someone who still believed he could walk free. He pleaded not guilty to all 4 counts of aggravated murder. And so began one of the most emotionally charged trials in Butler County's history. The prosecution opened with a chilling assertion: Gurpreet Singh murdered his entire family in cold blood. No forced entry. No defensive wounds. No theft. Just execution, methodical and unflinching. The motive? A tangled web of infidelity, financial ruin, and growing resentment inside the home. They painted a picture of a man leading a double life, one where he posed as a devout husband and father at home, while secretly building a future with another woman who had no idea about his real life. The state argued that the pressure of maintaining that facade, coupled with mounting debts and deteriorating domestic peace, led to one horrifying decision. The defense pushed back hard. They insisted that the state had no murder weapon, no eyewitnesses, no direct physical evidence linking Singh to the crime scene during the critical hour. Yes, he had a gun, but it had never been found. Yes, he had gunshot residue, but he also lived in a house with 4 victims who had all been shot. They called it circumstantial. Singh's defense attorneys painted him as a man trapped in tragedy, not a killer. They argued that he had no prior history of violence, no mental instability, and that he was, in fact, the one who had found the bodies and made the 911 call. The emotional recording was played for the jury, with Singh screaming, sobbing, nearly incoherent as he told dispatchers, "They're all dead." But prosecutors weren't moved. They brought in ballistic experts who explained the trajectory of the bullets. All 4 victims were shot once, in the head, at close range. The shooter knew exactly what they were doing. No second shots. No missed attempts. The killings had taken less than 2 minutes. Silent, efficient, controlled. Next came the digital evidence. Cell tower pings placed Singh's phone near the home during the time he claimed to be elsewhere. Traffic cameras tracked his car making loops in the area. And though Singh never confessed, his story never evolved either, remaining static even as the facts around him shifted like sand. Then came the emotional weight of testimony. Shalinderjit's family members sobbed on the stand. They spoke about her dreams, her children, her strength. How she had once believed her marriage was a blessing. How she was planning to take the kids and leave. The prosecution leaned hard into that narrative, arguing that Singh felt the walls closing in, his secret life exposed, his money problems worsening, and his grip on control slipping. The courtroom wasn't just a legal battleground. It became an emotional crucible. Jurors sat silent as graphic crime scene photos were displayed. For bodies, each with a single gunshot to the head. Blood pooling, lives ended midday. The weight of those images lingered far beyond the courtroom doors. And yet, the defense maintained their stance. No confession, no weapon, no clear proof he pulled the trigger. But for the jury, the absence of a weapon didn't outweigh the mountain of circumstantial evidence, the inconsistencies in Singh's statements, or the calculated nature of the killings. After weeks of testimony and cross-examinations, the case went to deliberation. The verdict? Guilty on all 4 counts of aggravated murder. As the sentence was read
You
aloud,
put those hollow point bullets in there, and you could do a lot of damage and killing with that gun. And that's exactly what you did. An 80-year-old man that you already hit with a .40 caliber round, you hunted him down in cold blood. The court is going to impose the most significant sentence allowed under Michigan law. Life without the possibility of parole.
some in relief, others in sorrow. The man they had once shared meals with, prayed with, laughed with, was now officially labeled a killer. But the emotional aftermath was far from over. The children, 2 of whom were just teenagers at the time, had lost both their parents in one night. One to a bullet, the other to a life sentence. The trial may have ended, but the damage left behind? That's something no verdict can undo. Gurpreet Singh's conviction brought an end to the legal battle, but it was only the beginning of the long road to healing for the surviving family members and the community. The wounds caused by such a brutal crime would never fully close. The scars were far too deep. For Shalinderjit's family, the loss was incomprehensible. In one tragic night, they lost not only a daughter and sister, but also the children who had their futures stolen. The 2 young teenagers left behind, orphans, now victims of a crime they would never understand in full. They would grow up with a void in their hearts that would never be filled, wondering why their father had chosen to take everything from them, why their lives had been shattered so brutally. The community, too, struggled to comprehend the loss. Gurpreet Singh had been well known. His image as a devout family man had made his actions even harder to grasp. The revelation that such a violent crime could be committed by someone many had trusted left people questioning the very fabric of their surroundings. How well do we really know those closest to us? How many people walk through life hiding dark, dangerous secrets? The trial also brought to light disturbing truths about family dynamics. It was easy to point fingers at Gurpreet, to label him a monster, but the case raised uncomfortable questions about the hidden struggles of a family on the brink.
Singh gets convicted, but they wanted to see him get sentenced for the deaths of all 4 victims, and that happened today.
We, the 3-judge panel, do hereby unanimously find that the aggravating circumstance that the defendant was found guilty of committing does outweigh the mitigating factors presented in this case by proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We therefore unanimously find that the sentence of death should be imposed upon Gurpreet Singh under count 1 of the indictment.
Financial pressures, emotional infidelity, and unspoken resentment created an environment where the unthinkable seemed possible. There's a quiet danger in ignoring the cracks in the foundation of a relationship, in pretending everything is fine when it's far from it. The prosecution had painted a picture of a man who felt cornered, his secret life unraveling. But behind the facade of a happy family, there was another reality, one of constant tension, financial strain, and a relationship that had eroded beyond repair. Gurpreet's decision to end it all wasn't just an act of violence, it was a tragic manifestation of unresolved conflict, betrayal, and the suffocating pressure of living a lie. For the children, growing up without parents is something that can never be truly understood until it's experienced. They will live with this loss forever. Their lives, already forever altered, will continue to carry the weight of their father's actions. They will have to reconcile the image of their father they once held dear with the man he became in his final, horrifying moments. But perhaps the most chilling part of this case is that it underscores the darkness that can lie beneath the surface of even the most ordinary lives. The Singh family appeared like any other, quiet, respectable, and content. Yet, underneath that veneer, a ticking time bomb had been set in motion. It wasn't a random act of violence, it was the inevitable conclusion of a web of lies, betrayals, and unchecked emotions. This case teaches us an important lesson. It's easy to believe that tragedy strikes only when things are visibly falling apart. But in reality, it's often the hidden problems, the unspoken grievances, the buried secrets that lead to catastrophic outcomes. It serves as a reminder to never take the health of our relationships for granted. We must always stay vigilant, checking in with those around us, fostering honest communication, and acknowledging the darker corners of our lives before they consume us. The psychological toll of such a crime isn't just felt by the direct victims. The ripples spread far beyond the immediate family. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers who knew the family now must live with the aftermath. For some, the memories of Gurpreet Singh and his family will be forever tainted by the horror of what occurred in their own quiet, suburban home. This case also serves as a warning about the dangers of neglecting emotional health and the hidden signs of escalating conflict. The failure to recognize these warning signs, the inability to confront the reality of a deteriorating relationship, and the denial of the immense pressure that can build in isolation, these are often the elements that lead to the unthinkable. In the end, while justice has been served, the scars remain. The community has changed forever, and the Singh family is no longer whole. No verdict can undo the devastation that was wrought on that fateful night. And as for Gurpreet Singh, the man who once held so much promise, he now sits behind bars, a cautionary tale for anyone who believes that their darkest secrets will never come to light. Thematic message: the story of Gurpreet Singh is a tragedy, a reminder of how unchecked emotional turmoil, betrayal, and denial can erupt into violence. It compels us to look deeper into the lives of those around us and recognize the hidden struggles they may be facing. Communication, understanding, and openness are crucial to prevent such devastating consequences. The psychological damage of unresolved conflict is far-reaching. While justice was served, the real lesson lies in the importance of addressing the silent battles within ourselves and our relationships.